Hi everyone, welcome to the 72nd episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Zayaks, and today I'm joined by PR Pro, Brianna McEldowney.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, and I'd like to shout out episode 31 guest Chen for technical directing once again. So Brianna, here in the Zicast, I interview people, I get to know them, and I'm excited to get to know you. So how about you kick things off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm a grad student here at Quinnipiac in the 3+1 program, where I'm majoring in public relations. So last May I graduated with my undergrad in PR and I minored in marketing. I'm from northern New Jersey, about 45 minutes outside of New York, so I'm a train right away. I'm hoping that's where I'll land a job after I graduate. So yeah, I'm just approaching graduation now, just seeing where the wind takes me, and yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And let me guess, Bergen County?
Yeah, yep.
Yes, I know Liam. Yeah,
awesome.
Liam's from Bergen County. That's the popular spot.
Yeah, very popular.
Around here at Quinnipiac. So to kind of kick things into, like you mentioned being a grad student, what you studied here in your 3+1 program. So how about you tell us a bit about how that program kind of shaped your approach to PR and what you've learned so far?
So yeah, I came into Quinnipiac as a media studies major and not really knowing what I wanted to do or like what I wanted, to be when I grew up. So as I took more classes at school, I realized, PR is something that all companies need. It's like the safe option. A lot of companies need this. Like I'll be able to land a job in it once I graduate. So I switched my major over, and then I realized more as I was taking classes, this is something I really can see myself doing. It's a lot of campaign management, a lot of reputation management, which is super important, for companies. If they want to make sales, they need to make sure that they're authentic and consumers can trust them, So I was able to see that process of things, which was really cool, which led me into helping create my own campaign at school called Defend the Den, which was really awesome.
Awesome. Actually, do you mind telling us a bit about that program?
Yeah.
And kind of what you did for that?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was about a sophomore here, I took this class called The Agency, and it was an elective that allowed students who applied for it to basically work with real life clients. So we worked with the Student Affairs Office with their idea of a bystander intervention campaign. So bystander intervention meaning if you see something, say something. So we were basically promoting that idea on campus and how they saw a number of reports, per se, if it was roommate problems or, drug or alcohol abuse, they wanted to be able to make sure that Quinnipiac is a very safe environment for students. So I spent that whole semester basically researching what bystander intervention was and why it's important and why it's important to Quinnipiac, along with the best way to create this messaging for students on campus. So we realized, athletics, Greek life, student government, just figuring out all of the target audiences on campus and meeting with, the faculty and staff for them. So that was really interesting, and I got to help bring this idea to life, which was really cool, which I think was the most exciting part about it.
Yeah, because PR, a lot of it's marketing and branding, and then you're also working with Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
So it's pushing the Quinnipiac branding. What did that kind of teach you in terms of representing the school in that way?
Yeah, it was really awesome. It was really cool. I learned a lot about the logistical or legal things, I guess, because the coloring has to we created our own logo and we wanted it to be uniformed with the school branding, so we had to use the correct colors and stuff like that from the school. So that was really awesome, and I got to see the little details that make a campaign tangible and meaningful and bringing that to life. So it was really awesome.
You also plan to kind of work in the city when you move on from school. So how about do you tell us about embracing those challenges and just kind of trying to work in the PR field?
Yeah, so I think PR is very competitive. There's a lot of agencies in New York that people apply to and stuff. So I'm really excited to see how those agencies what I'll learn from them. Just being able to see how they take on so many clients and the work that they're producing for them. I think New York is it's a city that doesn't sleep. So it's just really exciting to see the different opportunities that can come about working there. It's a lot of hustle and bustle. And it's very fast paced. I've been at school for the past 4 years, and you kind of get used to your routine and you're going to class every day and stuff, and this is going to be a whole new world and a brand new chapter for me. So I'm really excited to embrace that and move forward.
What do you like about kind of the hustle and bustle?
I think it's exciting. I think there's so many, you think of New York, there's so many opportunities, you're meeting so many people. I think it's really cool and awesome just to expand yourself and like see what's out there. So I'm just excited to embrace it all.
Yeah, and speaking of meeting new people, one thing you want to do is work with celebrities. So kind of tell us a bit about that and kind of how you kind of want to merge that with your PR career.
Yeah, so I definitely love pop culture and keeping up with like different trends that are going on. And I think like integrating that into my career and like my professional life would be an amazing goal, you know? I think I would love to see like the background of like, you know, you see different brands collaborating with different influencers and different celebrities to like bring their like brand like meaning, you know, into life. So, or like if they're promoting different products or whatnot. So I'm excited to see like, I would love to like learn the background of all of that, like that whole process, and like I'm seeing it from like a brand perspective, but seeing how like the management team of this person like come together, you know, to like bring this together. So I think it's just like a really cool way that like you know, as a consumer, I love to like see that type of stuff. So like working on the other end of that would be like the greatest thing ever, you know?
Yeah, so kind of bringing that consumer perspective in, like what ways would you try to, let's say you were representing a celebrity, let's say Timothée Chalamet, for example, what ways would you try to market that celebrity?
Yeah, so he's a really good example because of the press tour he just went on for Bob Dylan. So I think it was really cool how he, you know, he was doing like the ESPN broadcasting and then went on different podcasts, you know, like Theo Von. Yeah, so he, like that was really cool. I think it was like really interesting and new and like a very unique take. I think like, you know, entertainment, like the entertainment industry is so like highly competitive that you have to do things that catch people's attention. So doing something like that was really cool. I think people didn't catch, like it caught people off guard, which was like what worked about it, you know? So it was like really cool to see that. Yeah,
because it was very like alarming to see like an A-list celebrity on a podcast like that, because typically they stray away from like an unfiltered interview, but it definitely helped make Timothée Chalamet more kind of more marketable in the sense.
Yeah, more approachable.
Because it made him feel very down to earth, and it helped kind of market that movie in that sense. And like, what other things do you notice from like PR, like looking at other movies like Wicked, for example, on their press tours? Like, what do you take away from that?
I think like with movies, it's really cool because like you're showcasing like this story, but like being like authentic to the story you're presenting, and like kind of like you kind of see like the characters like staying in character when they're doing these press tours. So I think like that adds to like the magic of it almost. It's kind of very like very cool and very awesome. I think marketing like a movie per se is a really like fun and unique thing to do because it's very creative, and I think there's a lot of creative freedom there. So I think as long as it's like as what you're doing like makes sense to either the person or like the storyline of the movie that you're trying to promote, then like that's the best way to go about it, you know, just like being authentic to it.
Because that's something I've been continuing to learn about more, is like movies as a business, because you always think of movies as like, oh, it's like fun, like you mentioned, creative thing. And like if you were like, what other ideas would you want to bring in to PR or marketing in this sense if you were representing a celebrity?
I think like with Timothée Chalamet's approach, it was really cool and unique. I think doing things like that steps out of like people's comfort zones. So I think like that's always something like in any aspect of life it's important to do. So I think just like being able to like find new outlets of like being creative or like putting yourself out there is really important. And then just like, but while like doing that, also making sure you're like remaining authentic and just like transparent and everything like that. Like just being like, we talk a lot about like ethics and like ethical values in class. So it's just like, that's really important when you're like creating like campaigns or like promoting things, because that's like at the end of the day what's most important, you know?
So if you could represent one celebrity, who would it be? That's
a really great question. Right, I've been watching Summer House on Bravo, which is like reality TV, and one of the girls on the show, her name's Paige DeSorbo. She's like my idol. I think like being part of her team would be like a dream come true. Like she has her own podcast I listen to. She's very much into like fashion and beauty, which I like resonate with. She's just like a really awesome person. So I think like being part of like her team and like being able to like take part of like her creative endeavors would be like very awesome, like a dream come true.
Yeah, and how do you think you would market her as a reality star?
I think like she has a very like, she's like an Italian like strong personality, so I think like staying authentic to that, and then just like, you know, just like highlighting, you know, how she loves beauty and fashion and stuff like that, and just like who she is in like her podcast too, just embracing who she is already would be like what I would do. That would be my approach to like being part of her team.
Awesome. And you mentioned before wanting to be authentic in regards to like building a brand, but especially in regards to having a social presence. So tell us like the ways that you try to maintain a positive presence on social media or wherever else.
Yeah, so I think like with like your own social media, you know, just like I think it's like a really fun thing and it's like a great tool. And just like, you know, like being mindful of what you put out there, but also like I love to use social media as a very positive and like inspiring like space, you know. I think I use Pinterest a lot, which like keeps me inspired. I love to make vision boards and stuff and set goals for myself. So I think just like creating spaces where you're able to like look at it and be like, this is really awesome and positive, and like it like makes you, I don't know, I love being inspired, and I love like just like feeling like there's so much I can accomplish. So like I love to like look at social media as like, you know, I follow influencers that like I would love to like you know, walk in their footsteps one day, or like just like keeping like a good feed that's like positive and just like, you know, like inspiring.
Yeah. So are you a manifester?
Yeah, I love manifestation. Boards? I definitely believe in that.
Yeah, because I know Pinterest board. So is that kind of like is it kind of like a vision board?
Yeah,
kind of, so
exactly. But like you can just upload as many photos as you want, so it's great.
Yeah. And what's on your Pinterest board?
So right now for 2025, I have a lot of New York. You know, hoping I get, you know, a job in the city. So like money too, just like stuff about school too, like with my friends, just finishing off the semester strong, like graduating, like just having a fun time, you know, just like, you know, just enjoying life. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, like, what are some things people might not know about you, like fun facts?
So a fun fact about me, I guess, like I really do love meeting new people and like just like learning as much as I can. So I think like as I step into this next chapter of my life, I definitely want to instill that in me and be able to like, you know, just open myself up, see what's out there, and be able to like embrace life, you know. So
yeah, especially change too, as all three of us in here are graduating.
Yeah.
So it's like if there's one constant in life, it's change.
100%.
And new people coming into your life, and that'll especially be important in your field, as it's like you're a professional work with people person, and you kind of need to be that people person. Yeah. And then kind of moving onwards, I'd like to ask you, like, of course you love PR. What's one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike, just in general?
I love reality TV, like I mentioned. I think it's so entertaining, so fun. And I love like staying current with it, you know, like if it's just like, because I love pop culture, so just like staying in that trend. And then one thing I strongly dislike is bugs. I'm not a big bug person, so.
Trust me, you're far from the first person to bring that up. And you mentioned like reality TV and like thinking it's seeing it as being fun and entertaining. What else like really draws you to it?
I think like just like seeing like the conversations on social media about it, it's like fun to keep up with. And then like also it's like a bonding activity with my friends. Like if we're all watching the same show, it's kind of like we get to talk about it and be like, wow, like this is what's happening, you know. So it's just like, and it's also like fun to see how other people live, you know. So like it's just like makes you see what's out there.
Yeah. So kind of like the community and fanfare kind of helps to build it up for you too.
Yeah.
Like were you a Jersey Shore fan?
Yeah, I like obviously watched it like way past when it came out, but like watching it and then like being like, wow, like that was really like it was like a really fun show, you know. It was like peak reality TV. But then like seeing like the cast now, like where they are in their lives, it's like it's kind of cool to keep up with them. Yeah,
like when I was really, really young, that's what I used to think New Jersey was. It's just the Jersey Shore. That was long before I got to Quinnipiac and met a bunch of New Jerseyans. But like it's funny, like I thought Snooki was the norm over there. And now kind of moving on, so like you talk about wanting to go in the city, wanting to work in PR. What are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
Yeah, so I definitely, like, the biggest thing for me is I just want to be happy in life. I think all the decisions I make up to this point support that, you know. I want to just, like, you know, feel good in the moment and be able to, like, be, like, clear-minded as I, like, move forward in my life. So just, like, as I, like, embark this, like, professional career, like, in professional journey of my life, definitely just, like, embracing a lot and learning a lot, too. I think learning is a really big part of the process and just being able to absorb as much as you can, being a sponge. I think
Yeah.
that can only allow you to go further instead of like holding you back, you know?
Learning is always a lifelong process,
Yeah.
especially in our fields where things are constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mind me like watching your mic as it slowly falls.
It's okay.
It's just a part of the, yeah.
It's part of the process.
It exactly is a part of the process, and we'll learn to move past it, like I said. And now let me hit you with like you said, you love reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you love movies? I'd like to ask you, what are some of your favorite movies?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love biopics. I think that's a really like creative way of like filming a movie. Like I saw the Bob Dylan biopic over winter break. I loved the Elvis one with Austin Butler.
Yeah.
I recently saw the Bohemian Rhapsody one with about Freddie Mercury, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
I also love a good rom-com, you know, like The Notebook. I'm very open to like movies genres. Like I love a good scary movie too. So
Awesome. What is it about biopics, you think?
I think it's like cool to see another person's story. I think just like seeing how they got to that level of fame for the most part, it's like kind of interesting to see that like it's not always like the smoothest road, but like you only see them in like this limelight of like, you know, they're so great, you know, but it takes a lot of work to get there. So I think it's just really inspiring to see how people get to that point.
Yeah, and of course you want to work with celebrities so to kind of understand their story, so to speak, and sort of dive into, of course, I don't think you're ever going to be representing Elvis. I think that time has passed, but to understand like some of the interesting paths they take.
Yeah, for sure.
And how that can form into their marketing and their branding.
Exactly, which is really cool.
And of course, they have a story, you have a story, and we got to hear it on here. So thank you so much, Brianna, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And do you have any motivational words or plugs or anything you want to leave the audience with?
Just do what makes you happy, I guess. Just let that lead you in life. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this very interesting things about PR, celebrities, and just kind of like creating brands and marketing, which is so important because everything is a brand, everything is marketing. You also have one of the most fun last names. I've come up with McEldowney.
Yes, thank you.
It's just like
it's very
like
Irish.
Yeah, it's very fun to say, and I'm very excited to see what you do in this very interesting PR field.
Yeah, thank you.
It's interesting. We got our first toilet flush right at the end, so we're not gonna get one in the studio without that.
Yep.
So of course, thank you again, Brianna.
Yeah.
And as always, this is Ryan Zicast with the Zicast, where everyone has a story. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching.